Before we configure the startup.cs file, I want to set up the MVC file and folder structure in our course project app. So right here, I'm going to go to my course project application right here, and I'm going to click Add, New Folder, and I'm going to type controllers. The controllers are what handle the HTTP requests between the views. All of the business logic will be associated in that controller, and then it will emit all of the different items to our UI. So this is our controllers. In future lectures, I will go further in depth into MVC and all of the routing associated with it. Let's go to our course project right here. Let's click Add, New Folder, and let's name it Views. This is where our CS HTML pages will reside. Whatever HTTP request goes to a method on our controller will be routed to the view to associate the UI with it. We will take a look at the controllers and views in a second. I just want to add one more folder, and let's put Add, New Folder, and let's put Models. This is where all of the business logic will reside. All of your strongly typed C# class files will be associated in the models. And in future lectures, when we implement Entity Framework, we will use POCO classes to generate our Entity Framework context, which we will use in our controllers, and we will configure in the startup.cs utilizing dependency injection so we can reuse those class files, so we can reuse that entity context. So your business logic goes in your models, the routing and the HTTP request is the in-between middleware associated in the controllers, which emits to your view, which will be all of your HTML rendered back into the browser. Just remember that the CS HTML files will be associated with the views, and we will configure in the startup.cs in the next lecture to associate MVC in the project and to configure the routing with that. So now that we have this set up, let's go to the controller folder. Let's right-click, and let's click Add, New Item. And we're just going to go to an MVC controller class. As I told you before, Web API is associated now in MVC. As I stated before, MVC and Web API are joined together in MVC 6. But in this case, I just want to associate an MVC controller class. I'm going to leave it right there. It says homecontroller.cs. This naming convention is very important. So let's go ahead and let's add that. It's going to create a controller in our controllers folder. Now with the view that we have set up here, let's go over here, let's right click, let's click Add New Folder, and we want to name this Home. Remember, the naming convention is associated with the controller name. Since this is named Home Controller, the view folder that associates the CS HTML pages must be named Home. So now that we have our Home folder, let's right click in the Home folder and let's Add New Item. And we're going to add an MVC view page. And now, as you've noticed right here in the name is index.cshtml. We're going to associate the iActionResult method right here to the naming convention of our view. The method name has to be associated with the naming convention of the view. So as you can see, iActionResult index, the name for index.cshtml must match the method on your controller. So we're going to name this index.cshtml. Let's let that add in there. Give it a second while it loads that. So now this is our CS HTML page. And just remember the naming convention associated with that. You have a home controller right here. And inside of the home controller, you have a method that's associated with an iActionResult type. And it's pulling to an index. So the index is the action result that's going to be executed by default when a request comes to this application. And then it's going to be routed and associated right here to the home folder. And the index.cshtml is going to match the iActionResult right here. Like I stated before, we will delve into MVC and all of the features of MVC in a subsequent lecture. But right now, I just want to set up the folder structure associated with our project. It's going to be an MVC project. And in the next lecture, we will configure MVC on our configure and configure services method, and then build the routing to associate with our home controller on that index.cshtml page. I want to thank you for joining me in this lecture. Have a nice day.